This team's number 10 in the nation, according to the AP. But as I pointed out to the fine viewers here at the Voice of College Football, that means as much as, I don't know, fill in the blank what it means, because they hit just slightly over 50% of those rankings in the preseason. Just slightly over 50%. Well, the thing about, I'm going to defend Finebaum from this standpoint. I'm going to defend him from this standpoint.
Don't do that.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, George, because 20 out of the last 21 years, somebody who's in the preseason top 10 has finished out of the rankings. So I actually posted a video yesterday saying, who's that going to be? My targets were Notre Dame and Penn State, but I get it. So anybody is going to sound ridiculous predicting any one of those 10 teams to finish completely unranked.
You're operating under the assessment that he believes what he said. Like, it was not, that was a complete petty WWE.
Probably
313 reasons why we hate
Florida State. Let me put it this way. Yeah, maybe I'm not defending Finebaum. I'm just defending the process of trying to make an outlandish pick, because we know the history is telling us that somebody in those 10 spots is not going to finish ranked. And when you look at those 10 teams, it seems ridiculous to think that one of them is not going to finish ranked. But this is what happens every year. Actually, I went to, and then the video I posted today was the unranked teams that finish in the top 10. Do you realize in 2022, half of the top 10, the final top 10, were teams that were unranked to start the season? And the year before that, 2021, it was 4 out of 10. That's ridiculous. I don't have the numbers in front of me here, but starting with TCU, and there were another 4 in the top 10. That's crazy. So I start throwing out the Iowa States and Virginia Techs of the world. People are going to call me crazy, but I'm just trying to find somebody outside the top 25 that's going to finish in the top 10. It was Missouri last year.
I think if Paul Finebaum would have kept it to where it was just more of the, he did what you have to do as a talking head. He tried to make it entertaining, and I'm not mad at it per se. It's an easy target. Throw a rock at a hornet's nest, and the hornets are going to come attack you. That's Florida State fan base. It's been happening like that for a minute. It's been like that since before I played. We always feel like everybody's picking on us. But I'll say this: when I was listening to his comments, it just wasn't rooted in anything that could make me believe that he truly believed what he was saying. Like, he started off by saying the reason why is that we play Notre Dame and Miami in consecutive weeks, and then he brought up Florida. But then he said, I don't believe Florida is going to be that good of a team. So you're saying Florida State would end unranked off of 2 teams. If Florida State goes 10-2, Florida State will be ranked top 15 with an opportunity to potentially go to the college football playoff. I doubt they'll make it, but they'll have the opportunity. That's just not speaking in good faith. A better argument would have been Florida State's schedule is hard because they play SMU, they play Memphis, 2 teams that were in G5 last year that finished with over 10 wins. You play Clemson, and then you have November where you have Miami and stuff going in. Like, those weren't the arguments made. Those would be better arguments that I would have to at least step back and say, you know what, Paul, those are all legitimate gripes and legitimate reasons. And that's not what happened. Now, ironically, SMU's 3 losses were to Power 5 teams, one being Boston College, that Florida State beat. Not saying SMU is not good. I'm just saying those are the facts. And if you mix that in, but even then, if Florida State goes 9-3, they're still going to be ranked. Now, who has a history of, if they're not in the college football playoff, they fold, especially in the month of November? One team is not in the top 10, so we can't say anything about Miami. But Notre Dame, when Notre Dame's not in it, they tend to fold. Now, the crazy part is when they in it, they in the playoff. Like, when Brian Kelly was doing really, really well, Brian Kelly had them boys good. But when he was bad, he was bad. And I think with the injuries, if you're paying attention to what Notre Dame's having, I think they got 2 of their starting linemen are down. Riley Leonard, again, it's ironic that he brought up DJU in that, but not bring up the fact that Riley Leonard is an exciting quarterback that we're all rooting for and we would like to win. But he is everything that people tried to portray Jordan Travis to be before last season. He is a running back that throws the ball. And I'm not saying that to be hard on him. He doesn't throw it. He's barely over 50% in the games that matter, and he runs a lot. And that's what, and he's gutsy and he's gritty. That's what made him fun at Duke to watch. That might not necessarily translate over at Notre Dame, even though they do have a kid that's a burner in Chris Mitchell, who I happen to know because he's a Mandarin Mustang, who's a pretty good FIU transfer that went out there. But again, that's my only gripe and argument about it, is that it's never, in these days, it's a talking point. It's a punchline. And I don't want to say like I'm above those things. I just really like the game of football, and I like good football arguments. And I expect guys who are getting paid millions to make good sports arguments, but that's why I don't watch ESPN, Fox, or a lot of these things outside of game day type things. It's because a lot of these people are just saying stuff to get reactions.
The thing about, he's at the end, he calls into account Mike Norvell's culture, the football team, and pokes fun at the tears from the college football playoffs. As soon as you hear that, you know it's not serious, on top of the points you mentioned. That's why I just, it is what it is. It's like it's Jerry Springer. That's what he does, and it's fine. But
like the fan base brings up the college football playoff, and I understand that. But right now, the only time Mike talks about the college football playoff, or any of our players talk about it, is when somebody asked him about it. Mm-hmm. And actually, ironically, yesterday, I believe, or was it? Yeah, it was yesterday. Mike was asked about it on a podcast, and Mike says, "I don't want a team. I don't need this team preparing to right the wrongs from last year. That's not how you win games. Like, if you listen to what these guys are saying, like, none of these guys are crying about what happened last year. Are they mad? Rightfully so. But what I've learned is that every year is a new team. Like, this year's team is not the ACC champions. Last year's team was the ACC champions. Right now, this team has to do something to etch their names in history. And that's the only way winners think. And that's how, one thing I will say Mike Norvell is, regardless of if people like him because he's a rival coach or not, Mike Norvell has proven that he doesn't like losing, and he's a winner. And that's all I got to say about that part.
Well said by both of you. I find the rankings to be interesting. Fortunately, they don't matter. They don't matter for two reasons. Obviously, the playoff committee's rankings matter. And for Florida State, if they win the conference, they don't even have to care about the playoff rankings anymore.
And that's the point that, that's always what Mike Norvell's preached. And he preached the same message, that he preached last year in that interview that James is talking about. You control what you control. And as long as you take care of the winning, there's a path. Well, there's supposed to be a path. There'd been a precedent set for the history of college football, as long as the playoff had been there, et cetera, et cetera. As long as you go undefeated, you win your conference, you're in. Well, that broke. That didn't happen. So yeah, fans were upset. It was the controversy it was for a reason. There's a reason we hate Kirk Herbstreit and all that mess. But now there is, in fact, a path that you can tell them. You handle everything, you win the ACC, you're in. That's it. No ifs, ands, or buts. You got an opportunity to go out there and show the world, what you're made of. So that's the good thing about the 12-team playoff. Like, we don't have to worry about that ever again, unless you're 11-1 and you can complain about not getting an extra at-large bid or whatever. But that's a different conversation.